Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Please remember to like and subscribe. Today we'll be looking at the CSEC Mathematics January 2014 paper 1 and we'll get right into the questions. The number 3.14063 written correct to 3 decimal places is. Now when it says 3 decimal places, that's a critical part of the question. It is referring to 3 places after the decimal point. So in the first position is 1. The second position is 4, and the third position is 0. Now, these would be my 3 decimal places, but I can't just leave it like that. I have to look at the digit that comes after the third decimal place, which is 6, which means that I'm going to have to round up the 0. And the rule is that if it is 5 or above, you round up the previous digit. So your answer would be 3.141, which in this case would be option B. Now, in question 2, it says if 4.3 times 0.37 is equal to 1.59, then 0.43 times 370 is. Now, this is how this thing works. Whenever you're multiplying two numbers, by dividing or multiplying a number by a digit, it will affect the answer in a similar way. So for instance, if I were to double 4.3, the answer would be doubled. If I were to halve the 0.37, the entire answer would be halved. So to work this out, we just need to observe what happens to the individual terms in the product. So we have the answer is 1.5. Let me use a brighter marker. 1.591. Now to get 0.43, you would have to divide 4.3 by 10. So I'm going to divide this by 10, which is going to give me 0.1591. To get 370, I would actually have to multiply 0.37 by 1,000, as you can see. So 1, 2, 3. So what it means is that you simply multiply the answer as it is by 1,000. Alright? And some persons look at it as moving 3 places whenever you multiply by a power 10. So, well, by 1,000 in this case. So if you were to multiply by 100, you'd move 2 places. So I would have 1, that's for the first 0, 2, that's for the second 0, 3, that's for the third 0. So it's 159.1. So the answer for 2 would be C, as in cat. Moving to question 3. So it says 5 and 2/5 plus 4 and 3/7. Now what we can simply do is to add the two whole numbers, which is 5 and 4, because as you can see, all of these are 9, right? So it's going to be 9 and something. Now we just need to add the individual fractions, which is 2/5 plus 3/7, right? My LCM there would be 35, and we say 5 into 35 is 7. 7 2s is 14. 7 into 35 is 5, and then we say 5 times 3 is 15. So what we end up with here is 29 over 35. Right? So it's 9 and 29 over 35, which would make it option D, as in dog. Looking at question 4. Written correct to two significant figures, 18.96 times 2.03 is. Now, what we need to pay keen attention to here is particularly the size of the numbers. This is really 18. If you were to ignore the 0.96, which is almost 1, so it's almost as if you're multiplying, because you have 2.03. So it's almost as if you're multiplying 19, because this is not far from 19. So let us approximate it at 19 and ignore the 0.03 on the 2. Now 2 times 19 would actually be 38. So I know that my answer does include 38. Now it says two significant figures, and we start counting from the left. Alright? The first two non-zero digits. Alright, so in this case, my only logical option here would be B, because it could never be 0.38, because this is 18 or 19 times 2, so this is out of the picture. C has more than 2 significant figures, and D has more than 2 significant figures. So the only logical option with these 2 significant figures is option B, as in boy. All right, question 5. If $350 is shared in the ratio 2 to 5, the smaller share is. So in that ratio, for every 2 share, there are 5 shares. The smaller share would be 2, but it would actually be 2 out of 7 shares, all right, times 350. Because the total amount of share would be 7. So it would be 5 shares plus 2 shares, that's 7 shares. But you want to know the smaller share, which is 2. So it's 2 out of 7. Now we know that 7 to 7 is 1, 7 to 35 is 5, of course 7 to 0 is 0. So that's 2 times 50, which gives me $100, making 5 answer. Well, the answer is C. Option 6. In a school, the ratio of the number of pupils to the number of teachers is 20 to 1. If the number of pupils is 840, how many teachers are there? Now, in a case like this, we could actually ratio it and find out the value. So we could say, all right, we're looking at the number of teachers, which is a smaller ratio, which would be 1 out of 21 times the 840. That would tell me how many teachers, because for every 20 students, you have 1 teacher. But there's an easier way to look at it. All we need to really do is to find out how many 20s we can get outside of 840, because for every 20 students, you have 1 teacher. So all I simply need to do is divide 840 by 20. So we go 840 over 20. And we use principles like zeros. We use the zeros to cancel out. We can say 2 into 8 is 4, and 2 into 4 is 2, which makes it 42. So the answer to 6 is actually B, 6B. All right, question 7. If 3n is an odd number, which of the following is an even number? Now we know that with all odd numbers, the even number is 1 position away. All right, so we don't even need to go any further. The answer has to be A. Take, for instance, 3n is, for instance, 9. To get an even number, I can either add 1 to 9, which gives me 10, or I subtract 1 from 9, which gives me 8. So whether I add or whether I subtract 1, I'm going to end up at an even number once we have an odd number. So my answer to 7 would be A. All right. If I were to add 2, it would bring me to a next odd number. And if I were to subtract 2, I would get an next odd number. Thinking of 7 minus 2 is 5. 7 plus 2 is 9. Question 8. What is the highest common factor of the set 54, 72, and 90? The highest common factor is the highest number that can go into each of them without leaving a remainder. So we want the highest common factor for all 3 numbers. Now, of course, we can rule out D and C. Good? Because there is no way 90 can go into 54. 90 is larger. So C and D is out. Alright, we know that 9 can go into all of these numbers. Fair enough. What about 18? Can 18 go into all of these numbers? Here's an easy way to know if 18 can go into all of them. Since 18 is 2 times 9, it means that if you divide any of these numbers by 9 and you get an even number, then of course 18 can go in there, because 18 is twice 9. So let's see. 9 into 54. 9 into 54 is 6. 9 into 72 is 8. And 9 into 90 is 10, which are all even numbers. And since 18 is twice 9, then 18 can also go into all of them. So the highest common factor of all these 3 numbers would be B, as in 18. Good. Question 9. We have 99 times 101 has the same value as. Now here's a trick. Normally when we ask to multiply a very large number like these, persons normally tend to use some trick. So if you want 99 times 101, you can go 99 times 100, 99 times 1, and then you add the 2 of them. So I'm looking for that combination. So it'll be 99 times 100 plus 99 times 1. And we can also show you from an algebraic perspective, right? So you could say 99, right, this here, 99 times 101, right? So it's 99 times, in bracket, you can write 101 as 100 plus 1, all right? And then there comes the distributive law, which says 99 times 100 plus 99 times 1. A lot of persons use this as a trick to multiply numbers. So for instance, if I were to say 99 times 104, most persons would probably go 99 times 100 and then 99 times 4. Or you could have gone 100 times 4 and then of course you subtract 99 times. It depends. There are a lot of tricks that you can use. Sometimes persons use higher numbers, sometimes persons use lower numbers. So the answer to 9 is actually C, as in cat. Now, question 10. The first three common multiples of 3, 4, and 6 are. Alright, multiples are numbers that these can go into without leaving a remainder. So let's see. Well, 0, 1, 2 is totally out of it. 3, 4, 6 is out of it. Alright, because we know that 6 wouldn't go into 3 without leaving a remainder. Alright, so those are out. Now, what about 6, 8, and 12? Now, while we appreciate that 3 can go into 6, 4 can go into 6, so that's out, which makes the answer automatically D, and we don't have to check it because we would have ruled out A, B, and C. We now move on to question 11, which said if P is equal to the set of 2, 3, 5, 7, Q is a set of 2, 3, 6, and S is a set of 2, 4, 5, then P intersect Q intersect S is equal to. Here's a simple way of looking at intersection. All it means is what is common to all three sets, P, Q, and S. What can be found in all three of them? If we look at the sets, we realize that only 2 is common to all three sets. So the answer to 11 is simply 2, which is option A. Moving to question 12, which refers to the Venn diagram below. It says, in the Venn diagram, the number of elements in P is equal to 5. The number of elements in Q is equal to 9, and the number of elements in P union Q is equal to 10. So, in a sense, whenever you have what they want is the intersection, which we don't know, we can always call that something. Let us call it X. Alright? The number of elements in P would include the intersection, and the total is 5, so this is 5 minus X. Q would be 9, and so this would also be 9 minus X, because Q does involve the intersection. Now, I can work this out algebraically, because I know that all of this should add up to 10. Alright, so we could say, alright, 5 minus X. So 5 minus X plus 9 minus X is equal to 10. Alright, negative X cancels out that. So we have 5 plus 9. That's 14 minus X is equal to 10. So we could carry over the 10, carry the X to the next side. So we're going to have 14 minus 10 is equal to X. So X is equal to 4. That's one way of looking at it. However, we don't need to go through this hectic thing to look at it. If the number of elements in P is 5 and the number of elements in Q is 9, bear in mind, this is saying that the number of elements in P are Q. So when I combine these, I should get 10 overall. So it means that the amount that this exceeds 10 by is what should be in the intersection. Meaning, if you add 9 and 5, you're going to get 14. Since a combination of P and Q should actually be 10 overall, so P or Q, which means looks at the combination of them, should be 10. And I'm going over by 4, it means that the intersection has to be 4. Because remember, you'd have counted the intersection twice when you count P and when you count Q. So whenever I add P and Q, I'm going to get 14, which means the intersection has to be 4, which was counted twice, because that is how much it exceeds the union by. So I know that my answer is 4, which is B. Alright, so you have options. Work it out algebraically, or we simply just reason it out. Alright, item 13 refers to the Venn diagram below. As we can see, we have U is a universal set who play games, H is for hockey, which is this set here. V is for volleyball, which is this set here. And of course, you have 3 outside, which means that these 3 persons do neither. So it says the number of students in each set is shown. How many students do not play volleyball? Alright, so overall, let us look at volleyball here. Volleyball would be this 4, this 2. Alright, because the intersection is also a part of volleyball. 2 persons play both games. So we want the number of persons who do not play volleyball, which means that we're looking at the persons who do hockey only, which is 5, and the persons who do no game at all, which is 3. So that would be 5 plus 3, which would give me 8, which is option D, as in dog. Alright, question 14. All students in a class play Scrabble, or checkers, or both, which means that 100% of the students take part in one of these two games, or there's a percentage at the both. Alright, because when you say all students, we're looking at 100% since the things are in terms of percentage here. It says if 36% of the students play Scrabble only, alright, so those are persons who only play Scrabble, and 48% of the students play checkers only, what percentage play both? Since 100% of them must do something, all normally suggest 100%. And you have 36% for Scrabble only, and you have 48% for checkers only. It means that the remaining out of the 100% would have to do both games. Now, when we add 36 and 48, would get 84%, which means that to get the remainder, it would be 100 minus 84, which would be equal to 16%. Alright, so the answer would be B, as in boy. Question 15. The cost of a calculator exclusive of sales tax is $120. Right? So that's the cost without tax. Susan bought a calculator and had to pay a sales tax of 10%. How much change would she receive from $140? Now, there are certain things in percentage that we ought to know out of our head. So for instance, 10% really means 1/10. Alright? But I'm going to work it out anyways. So I'm going to have 10 over 100 times 120. Right? And we make the zeros work. So that cancels that. That cancels that. So this is equal to 12. What that means is that tax would be $12. Right? So if the cost without tax is 120, when tax going, which is 12, to get the total amount of money that you're going to spend, you're going to have to add the price to the tax. So it's 120 plus 12, which is 132. Now you're paying from $140, right? What change will you receive? So it will be 140 minus 132, right? Which will really just be $8. So your change would be 8. Option A, as in apple. Now we move to question 16. It says the simple interest on 600 for 4 years at 5% per annum is. Now the simple interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time over 100, right? Of course, the principal is how much you put in, the rate is a percentage per annum, and the time is the number of years. So I'm putting in 600, all right, at 5% for 4 years. So it has to be 600 times 5 times 4 over 100, which makes the option A. We don't need to look any further. All right, question 17. A television set costs $350 cash. When bought on hire purchase, a deposit of $35 is made, followed by 12 monthly installments of $30. How much is saved by paying cash? Alright, let's work this out. So you're gonna have, if you were to go hire purchase, let me call it HR, hire purchase price, or HP. I'm gonna pay 35 down. Plus, I'm going to have to go 12 times 30. Because for 12 months, you'll be paying $30. We can work this out easily. So we simply go 3 times 12 is 36. And we add a 0. So we get 360. Alright? So it's 360 plus 35. Alright? Which is going to give me 395. Good. Now, this would be my higher purchase price. My cost price is 350. So how much is saved? It's going to be 395 minus 350. Or you just think of it as 95 minus 50, which would give you 45. So your answer to 17 would just be D, as in dog. It says a plot of land is valued at $18,000. Land tax is charged at a rate of 70 cents per $100. What is the total amount of tax paid for the land? Now, so it's per 100. So we have to find out how many hundreds we have in 18,000. Alright, which would be easy, simply 18,000 divided by 100. Alright, and we can use the zeros to cancel. So we have what? $180. Now we need to multiply, so it would be 180 times 0.70. Alright, we call it 70 cents really. So it would be times 0.70. 0.7 can also be looked at 7 out of 10 if that's one angle you want to take it from. Alright, so if we convert this to a fraction, it will simply come down to 7 out of 10. Because of course you can ignore a 0, which is somewhat negligible. So it would really be 7 out of 10 times 180. Which would this cancel this. Now of course, in some ways we can make an intelligent guess. This is why. Because we can look at 7 out of 10 as a certain fraction. What would it be closer to? Alright, it would be a bit over half of 180. 180, half of 180 is 90. Alright, so we know for sure it could definitely not be A, which is 110. It would be a bit more than that. But let us look at it. Now, when I go 7 times 8, 7 eighths would give me 56. Now, we can rule out C and D. Those are out because there's no way a fraction could be higher than the actual amount here. So those are out. So the answer is between A and B. Now, since 7 times 8 is 56, it has to be the one that ends with a 6, which means that A is out. So the answer has to be B, as in boy. And we could have actually done that from up here. Alright? When you go 7, because we know that here, zeros, ignoring the 0, it will be 7 times 8. 7 times 8 is 56. There is only one number up here that involves a 6, and that is B. So there are different shortcuts we can take when doing different questions. Alright, question 19 says a loan of $80,000 was paid back in 2 years in monthly payments of $400. The interest on the loan as a percentage was. Okay, so if you're going to pay $400 for 2 years, they'll be thinking about each month. So in a year, you have 12 months. So what I could do is simply find how much is in a year and double it to get 2 years. So it'll be 400 times 12. Alright, just look at the 4 times 12, which is 48. And of course, you can add the zeros. You put by the 2 zeros. This is for 1 year. So we'd have to multiply this by 2. Alright, so 2 times 0, 0, 0. 2, 8, 16, carry the 1. 2 times 4, 8, 9,600. So since the loan was 8,000, the interest would have been 1,600. Good? What we want is a percentage interest on the loan. So it will be 1,600 over 8,000. Now, we don't actually have to work this out. Well, times 100. We don't have to work it out because 1,600 is almost 2,000. 2,000 would be a quarter. So it would be shy of a quarter. Alright, so we could even guess at 20%. But let us see what happens, because this is not too difficult to work out. 0, we cancel out the zeros. Alright, of course we can see here, 8 into 16 is 2, 8 into 0 is 0, so we end up with 20%, which is option D, as in dog. Question 20. A store offers a discount of 10% to customers who spend more than $20. If a customer's total bill is 80, what will be his actual pay? So we established that 80 is more than 20. So you're supposed to get a 10% discount. So in other words, you're going to pay 90% of what you should actually pay. Now, sometimes we could just work out the 90% of the 80 to know what he or she pays. But sometimes it might be easier to work out the discount and then subtract it. So let us work out the discount. 10% would be 10 over 100 times 80. Alright, as we can see here, this would be $8. Of course, here's the next way to look at it. 10% is also 1/10. So if you remember these fractional equivalences, it makes it easier. So I could simply even have divided 80 by 10. Would have given me 8. So you're taking off 8% or $8, sorry, of that money. So $8 from $80 would bring me down to $72, which makes it option C. Alright, item 21 refers to the table below, which shows the rate charged by an insurance company. So house insurance is 25 cents per 100. 25 cents is of course a quarter of a dollar. Alright, content insurance, 50 cents per 100. 50 cents is half of a dollar. how much money will a person pay for his insurance if his house is valued at $50,000 and his content is valued at $10,000? So what we really need to find is how many hundreds are in each of them. So I'm going to have 50,000 divided by 100, and I'm going to have 10,000 divided by 100. Once again, you don't have to do these hectic procedures because all you need to do is cancel out the zeros, right? So right away, without even doing the actual process, you know you're supposed to cancel the zeros. So you have 500 and you have 100 there. Now bear in mind, this is saying that you have $500 and that is for your house, alright? Because the house is valued at $50,000. So it's saying for each of those 100, you're going to pay 25 cents, which is a quarter of a dollar. So all I really need to do is to multiply this by a quarter. Alright, you're going to pay a quarter per 100. So this would be 4 into 50. 4 into 4 is 1. 4 into 5 is 1. Carry the 1. 4 into 10 is 2. And carry the 2 as a remainder. And 4 into 20 is 5. So you have 125 there. That is for the house. Content is 50 cents, which means half a dollar. Alright, so I'm going to have a half. Of course, you can work this out mentally times 100, which is 50. So it's going to be 125 plus 50, which gives me 175. So the answer to 21 is actually A as in apple. 22. A car depreciates. Well, a car presently has a value of $12,000. Depreciates at a rate of 10% per annum. What will be the value of the car after 1 year? So it means that every year 10% would come off the car. So it loses 10% of its costs. So its value is going to be 90% of its cost after 1 year. Alright? However, we always say that sometimes it's easier to work with the smaller numbers. So I could find 10% of 12,000, which is again 1/10. It's not something you have to worry about, because all we really need to do is to divide 12,000 by 10. Same thing as saying 1/10, right? So it's 10 over 100 times 12,000. Once again, we say it's 1/10, so you could have simply just divided the value by 10. Alright, so knowing these shortcuts make your life easier. So this is 1,200. Alright, so I'm going to be subtracting 1,200 from 12,000. Here's an easy way to do it. Let us start by taking 1,000 from 12,000. That is 11,000. From 11,000, let us take 200. Alright, that would be 10,800, which makes the option A. 23. The product of a number P and its reciprocal may be written as. So you have P. The reciprocal of any number is 1 over the number. So it's 1 over P. So it's P times 1 over P. That would be C as in cat. Moving on to question 24. And here we have a distribution to do. Right? Now we need to pay keen attention to the signs. So this 5 outside the bracket will multiply everything inside the bracket. So I'm going to have 5 times 2x, which is going to give me 10x. 5 times negative y, which is minus 5y. Then looking at this side now, it's negative 2 times 3y, it's negative 6y. But then you have negative 2 times negative 5x, which is going to give you a positive 10x. Now all we have to do is look for the like terms. So we're going to have a positive 10x plus a positive 10x, which is going to give me a 20x. Then you have negative 5y minus 6y. So you owe 5, you owe 6. So that's minus 11y. So it's 20x minus 11y, which makes it option A. Question 25. Multiplying. So we have negative 2a times negative 3a. No, negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6, which means that you don't even have to multiply the a, but a times a is a squared, which makes it option D. 26. And there are several ways that we could go about doing this. We could use trial and error in 26, or we could work it out as well. So we have 50 minus 3x is equal to x minus 26. So we just need to decide what we're going to do. So we can bring the x, which is positive, to the left, which means we're going to subtract. We can bring the 50 over, which is positive, which means also we're going to subtract. So you'd have negative 3x minus x is equal to negative 26 minus 50. Alright, so that's negative 4x equal, you owe 26, you owe 50, that's minus 76. And we divide both sides by a negative 4. Alright, so we know the answer is positive. So A and B is out. Now 76 divided by 4 can never be 6. 4 6s is 24. So the answer has to be D, which is dark. Alright, so if 15 squared is equal to 225, then the square root of this is, alright, so we need to make a comparison. Now 0.0225 can be written as 225 times 10. Alright, so if you'd have to go, if I'm here, which is 225, I would have to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 places. So times 10 to the negative 4, because I'm going back. Alright, so this is just a different way of writing 0.0225. Now what we want is the square root of it. Alright, so the square root of this and the square root of that. Now when I square root 225, it's simply going to give me 15. Right? Because 15 squared is equal to 225 times, what about when I square root 10 to the minus 4? Now, when you square root a number, it's the same thing as half in the power, because the square root means a half. So instead of writing square root, you could raise it to a half power. Right? So I could say 10 to the negative 4 raised to a half, which is 10 to the minus 2, because half of negative 4 is minus 2. So it would be 15 times 10 to the minus 2, which means that you're going 2 places back. So 1, 2, which would be 0.15, which makes it answer to option 27, B, as in boy. Alright, 28. If A is 5, B is 2, C is 4, then 6AB minus 2C. So 6 times 5 times 2 minus 2 times 4. Now 6 times 5 is 30. 30 times 2 is 60. 2 times 4 is 8. So it's 60 minus 8, which comes down to 52. 29, which makes it option B. 29. If x is an integer which satisfies the inequality, then the smallest possible value of x is. Now integers, bear in mind that these represent a set of negative and positive numbers. Here you have an inequality that says x minus 2 is greater than 4 but less than 8. So you have to solve from the middle. Alright, so what I'm going to have to do, minus 2 is greater than 4 but less than 8. We have to add 2 to all of it. So it'll be 4 plus 2, which is 6. If you add 2 to the middle, it's just going to cancel out. And if you add 2 over here, it's going to give you 10. Now since x is greater than 6 and it has to be an integer, the integer greater than 6, smallest, would be 7. So the answer is A, as in apple. Moving to question 30, which says if m asterisk n is equal to the square root of m squared minus n squared, then 5 asterisk 3 is. What that means is that you're going to be replacing m by 5 and n by 3. So you'll have the square root 5 squared minus 3 squared, which is going to be the square root 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25. 3 squared, which is 3 times 3 is 9. 25 minus 9 is 16. So you have a root of 16, which is equal to 4. So 30 would be C, as in cat. Now 31 refers to the laws of indices. The laws of indices say if you divide two things that have the same base, then we subtract the powers. So it would be 2 to the 6 minus 2, which would be 2 to the 4, which is option B, as in boy. Now, how many kilograms are there in 1 ton? Alright? 1,000 kilograms is equal to 1 ton. So that we would have to know. Alright. 33. If it took a speedboat 9 hours to travel a distance of 1,080 kilometers, what is its average speed in kilometers per hour? Now, speed is distance over time. So the distance here would be 1,080 and the time would be 9. Right? So I'll have to divide 1,080 by 9. So here's a trick to it now. 9 into 9 is 1. 9 into 10 is 1, which leaves a remainder of 1 also. 9 into 18, that's 2, no remainder. 9 into 0, 0. So the answer here would be 120, which would make it option C, as in cat. 34. The distance around the lake is 8 kilometers on a map. On a map, this distance around the lake is represented by a length of 2 centimeters. The scale on the map is. Now, to get the scale on the map, I'm going to have to convert 8 kilometers to centimeters. Right? Now, we can go from kilometers to meters first. So 1,000 meter make a kilometer. So to get 8 kilometers in terms of meter, it would be 8 times 1,000, which is 8,000. Now 100 centimeter is equal to 1 meter. So to get this in terms of centimeter, I would have to multiply by a further 100, which means that I just add 2 zeros. So 1, 2. This value is 800,000. Right? That's 800,000 centimeters. On a map, that is 2 centimeters. So it's 2 to 800,000. So to determine what 1 centimeter is, I would simply have to divide both sides by 2. So it would be 1, 2. 2 into 8 is 4, which makes it 400,000. So it's 1 to 400,000, which means that 1 centimeter on the map, on the ground, in real life, is 400,000 centimeters. So whenever we're using the scale to determine this, we just simply need to have them be. Alright, we now move on to question 35 and says, refers to the diagram below, not drawn to scale, which shows a sector of a circle with center O. Alright, we know that a sector is a fraction of a circle. So it says, in the diagram, the length of the minor arc, PQ, is 8. So right here is 8 centimeters. What is the circumference of the circle? Now the angle here will tell us what fraction of the circumference this arc is. Alright, bear in mind that an entire revolution is 360. Alright, so 60 over 360 would be, we break this down, would be 1/6. So this is really 1/6 of the circumference. So to get the entire circumference, if this is 1/6, we would simply multiply 8 centimeters by 6, which would give me 48 centimeters. So the circumference of the circle would be 48, which is option C, as in cat. Alright, 36. 50 guests each had 2 glasses of champagne. Each glass of champagne held 150 milliliters. How many milliliters of champagne were used? Now, so each guest had 2. Alright, so we'd simply multiply the 150 by 2, which is 300. So each guest had 300 milliliters of champagne. Alright, and there were 50 guests. So it would be 50 times this. Alright, you know the procedure. 0 times everything is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 3 is 15. So there were 15,000 milliliters of champagne. But we want to get it in terms of liter. Now remember, 1,000 milliliter makes a liter. So the liter is a larger unit. So I would simply need to divide this answer by 1,000. And of course, you know how the zeros go. Alright? So it would be 15 liters of champagne. Okay, moving to question 37, which refers to the diagram below, not drawn to scale. It says the area of the trapezium is. Now, to get the area of the trapezium, it's half A plus B, and B are the 2 parallel sides, which would be this side and this side. So it's 8 plus 18 times the distance between the 2 sides, which would be 5. Now, when I add 8 and 18, I'm going to get 26. So I'm going to have half 26 times 5. And half of 26, of course, is 13. And 5 times 13 is 65. So it's 65 square centimeters, which makes it option B. Alright, 38. A boy leaves home at 9:15. 9:15 hours, and arrives at school at 10:05 hours. If he travels non-stop at an average speed of 6 kilometers per hour, how many kilometers is his home from school? Now, distance is equal to speed times time. Let's say S is speed. Now, so I need to find the time. So from 9:45 to 10 o'clock would be 45 minutes. And from 10:05, well, from 10 to 10:05 would be 5 minutes. So in all, you have 50 minutes there. Okay. If the speed is 6 kilometers per hour. Now, bear in mind at 50 minutes, we need to convert that to hours, right? So 50 minutes. So bear in mind that there are 60 minutes in an hour, right? So it will be 50 over 60 to get it into hours, times the speed, which is 6. Work this out manually, right? 6 into 6 is 1. 6 into 60 is 10. That cancels that. So we have 5 kilometers. Good. Item 39 refers to the diagram below, not drawn to scale, which shows a cuboid. The volume of the cuboid is 320 and the height is 5. If the cuboid has a square base, what is the length of the base? So the volume of a cuboid, volume is length times base, or length times width times height, right? Length times width times height. So this is 320. We're told that the height is 5, but we're also told that it has a square base, so it's just going to be length times length. So you're going to have L squared. Alright, dividing both sides by 5, I'm going to have length squared is equal to, so it's a 5 into 32 is 6, 5, 6 is 30, leaves 2 as the remainder. 5 into 20 is 4. So we have 64 equal L squared. So since it's square, all we have to do is square root it, right? What times itself gives us 64? It's 8. So the length of one side is 8 centimeters. Item 40 refers to the information below. The following scores were obtained by 11 footballers in a goal shooting competition. The modal score is the score that you see occurring the most. Without even looking too far, by looking through this data set or glancing through, you would notice that you see 3 several times. So the modal score, which is the most occurring data value, is 3. Alright, question 41. The table below shows the frequency of scores obtained by students in a test. And here you have the scores and you have the number of students who got these scores. The range of the scores is, now the range is the highest score value, which is 10, minus the lowest score value, which is 2. So 10 minus 2 would be 8. So the answer would be 8. So this would be C. 42. 600 students write an examination. The probability of a student failing the exam is 1/5, which means that 1 in every 5 students is expected to fail the exam. How many students are expected to pass? Now, if 1 in every 5 is expected to fail, we'll expect that 4 in every 5 would pass. So to get the number of persons who would be passed, it would be 4 out of 5 times the 600. Alright, so it's a 5 into 5 is 1. 5 into 6 is 1, leaves a remainder of 1. 5 into 10 is 2. And 5 into 0 is 0. So it's 4 times 120. So that's going to give me 480, which would be option B, as in boy. Moving down to question 43. It says, in a class of 20 students, 12 are girls. What is the probability that a student selected at random is a boy? Now, if 12 are girls, it means that 8 would be boys. So it would be 8 over 20. Of course, we have to break this down. So we find the highest common factor of 8 and 20, which you could use 4. 4 into 8 is 2. 4 into 20 is 5. So it's 2/5. Option B. Question 44. If the mean of 4 numbers, 4, 8, x, and 12 is 10, then x is. There are several shortcuts that we could use, but let's use the formula. To get the mean, you add up all the numbers. So 4 plus 8 plus x plus 12 divided by the number of numbers, which is 4, and this is equal to 10. This is going to give me 12 plus 8, that's 24. So 24 plus x over 4 is equal to 10. Alright, we have to work this out algebraically. So we multiply both sides by 4. So we have 24 plus x is equal to 40. We care about the 24, so x is equal to 40 minus 24. So x would be 16, which makes it option D. There are other ways we could have done it. It's only 4 numbers. So all we need to do is to find out how all the numbers could be 10, since the mean is 10. So I could take 2 over 12, put it on 8, that would be 10. So those would be okay. So the 4 plus the x now, those two combination needs to be 10. In other words, when you add them, you need to get 20. So it means that x would have to be 16 to give 4, 6, which makes it 10, and 10 for itself to give you a mean of 10. So there are different tricks and techniques that we can use. Alright, item 45 refers to the pie chart below, which shows the preference in drinks of a group of students. AOC is the diameter of the circle, so you have AOC. Alright, now one thing we know about the diameter is that it's a straight line going across the center of the circle, which means that it makes this angle right here equal to 180, which is half of a revolution, which is 360. And it says if 12 students prefer lemonade, then the total number of students is. So let's work this out. What do we know? We know that 12 students prefer lemonade. This angle for lemonade, since this entire angle would be 180, it means that this small piece would have to be 60, because this is 120. Alright, so 60 out of the 180. Well, not 60 out of 180, rather. The entire circle is 360, so it's 60 over 360, which would break down to give you 1/6. So the sector for lemonade is 1/6, and it represents 12 students. So if I want the total amount of persons here, it would just be 6 times those 12, which would be 72. So the total number of students you have here is 72. Alright? Alright, moving down. And of course, you could have also used the concept of ratio. So it works pretty much the same way. The 46. Which of the following diagram best illustrates a function? Now, there are two things that constitutes a function, or two types of relation. It's either a one-to-one or a many-to-one relation. Good. So let's look for that function. So we're either looking for a one-to-one or a many-to-one. Right, this is out. As you can see the map in here, this is one to many. You also have an next one to many, so that's out as well. You can call this many to many. This one is also out, so automatically makes D, which is a one-to-one function, which is one-to-one, a one-to-one relation, the function. Okay? So it's option D. We'll move on to item 47. That says the equation of a line which passes through the point 0, 2 and has gradient 1/3 is. Now remember that equation of a line is y equal mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is where the line cuts the y-axis, which means that the x value is 0. This tells me that the y-intercept is 2, and we know that the gradient is 1/3 already. So it will be y equal 1/3 x plus 2, which makes it option D, as in dog. Moving to 48. It says item 48 refers to the diagram below. Alright, so we have x and we have y. The diagram represents a mapping. X maps to. So we want to find out what function, when we put in these x values, we get out the corresponding values over here. Right, that they're mapped onto. Or what function is represented over here. Now is it x maps onto x plus 2? Now 0 plus 2 wouldn't give 1, so that's out. B says x maps onto x plus 1. Now 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is not 4, 3 plus 1 is not 8, so this is out. Let us look at C. 2 to the x. Now 2 to the 0 is 1, 2 to the 1 is 2, 2 to the 2 is 4, and 2 to the 3 is 8. So we don't have to go further. It's C, as in cat. Moving to option 49. It says if f of x is equal to 2x squared minus 1, then f of minus 3 is equal to. What it means is that we're going to be replacing the x with minus 3. So I'm going to have 2 times minus 3 squared minus 1. Now working this part out here. Negative 3 squared really means negative 3 times negative 3. And we have to work out the bracket first. Negative 3 times negative 3 would be 9. And then you're going to have 2 times 9 minus 1. 2 times 9 is 18 minus 1, which is 17. So it's C, as in cat. 50. We should have following set represented by the function f is such that x maps onto x squared plus 3, where x is 0, 1, 2, 3. So what it means is that the x values, alright, so in the domain, you have 0, 3, which means that the x value is 0, the y value is 3, or the f of x value is 3. So I want to find the cases that when you plug these x values into this function, the output values that you get represent the y values. Let's start with this 0, 3. Now 0 squared plus 3 is 3. So that is correct. Try 1. 1 squared is 1 plus 3 is 4. So that is also correct. Try 2. 2 squared, which means 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So that works as well. And try 3. 3 squared, which is 9, plus 3 is 12. So it means you don't have to go further. Alright? So sometimes you actually have to use trial and error, like in a case like this. Or you could have actually worked it out, but trial and error does work. 51. The range f is such that x maps onto x squared for the domain negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2 is the range is the values that come out. So in other words, when I square these values, what do I get? If I square negative 2, I'm going to get 4. If I square negative 1, I'm going to get 1. If I square 0, I'm going to get 0. But notice that if you square 1, you also get 1. And if you square 2, you get 4. Just like when you square negative 2. So all we're getting out here is 0, 1, and 4. So it means that 51 answer would be A, as in apple. Moving to question 52. It refers to the diagram below. It says AC and DE are straight lines intersecting at B. Angle DAB is 58 degrees. So this is 58 degrees. Which are following is true. Now when angles intersect like this, what normally forms is what you call vertically opposite angles. And vertically opposite angles are equal. So it means if over here, if DBA is 58, it means that CBE is also 58. Alright, that is true. So whichever following angles are equal. It says DBC, DBC. So if you're looking at DBC, it will be equal to ABE. So it says DBC and CBE, CBE. There's no way those two angles could be equal, right? CBE, so CBE and ABE, so ABE. Those also would not be equal. ABD, so ABD and CBD, CBD also not equal, which makes the option automatically D, as in dog, which is ABD, ABD, which is this angle right here, and CBE, right? So you didn't actually have to go through all the options to test them. You could have just looked, pick out the equal angles and look for that in the answer. Alright, so the measure of ABE, so ABE is, now if you look here, this is a straight line. So it means if you complete it, the entire angle would be 180. So since this side is 58, this side will be 180 minus 58. So I'm going to have 180 minus 58 degrees, which would be 122 degrees. So 53 is B. Alright, item 54 refers to the diagram below. Alright, so we know that this is dealing with circle theory. Okay, it says if O is the center of the circle, then y degrees is, now here's the center of the circle right here, and here's the angle of 50 degrees on the circumference. Now the rule says that the angle at the center is twice the angle at the circumference, which means that the angle y would actually have to be twice 50, which would be 100 degrees. Alright. Moving down to question 55. It says, in item 55 refers to triangle PQR below. Alright. In the triangle, cos P, so here's P, can be expressed as, now cos, as you have it, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So this would be the adjacent side, this would be the hypotenuse. So we're looking at PQ over PR. So PQ over PR. So we're talking about option C here. So that's 55. Moving to 56. The image of negative 2, 3 under translation. Now when it comes on to a translation, all we have to do is add the translating vector to the original point. So I would add 3 to negative 2, and I would add 4 to 3. Alright, so that would give me 1, and 3 plus 4 would be 7. So I'm going to end up with a coordinate of 1 and 7. So it's C. Alright, and because it's a multiple choice, you don't need to manually write this out and show the working. Alright, item 57 below shows a transformation. Alright, the transformation which will map PQR, so PQR onto P prime, Q prime, R prime is, so let's see the different options here. So before we go any further, let us look at what happens to the points. You'll notice that if you look for instance at R, we find R, the coordinate here, what would really happen? Well, R is probably not a good idea, but if R here was for instance negative 5, 0, when it comes over here, it will become 5, 0. P now, let us say P is negative 1, 5. When P comes down here, it becomes 1, negative 5. So what happens is that it keeps the order, but the coordinates are negated. And that is what happens when you go 180 degrees about the origin, right? So the coordinates, they don't switch the order, they remain in the same order, but the signs become negative. So that is what is happening here. So it will be a rotation of 180 degrees about the origin, which is A. Alright, let's move down to 58. Now, it refers to the pair of triangles below, which are similar triangles. As you can see, they have the same angles. Now, when triangles are similar, one triangle length is a scalar multiple of the other. In other words, if you look at the corresponding side AB and MN, if you multiply MN by 2, you will get AB. Just like if you multiply MO by 2, you get AC. So it means that MO is a half of AC. Alright, AC is 7, so MO must be 3.5, which makes my answer C, as in cat. Moving to question 59, it says item 59 refers to the diagram below, which shows an enlargement. Right? And as you can see, this is the image ABC, and A prime, B prime, sorry, ABC is the object, A prime, B prime, C prime is the image. So it says in the diagram, in the triangle ABC is mapped onto triangle A prime, B prime, C prime, where this is O is the center of enlargement, which is the origin. What is the scale factor of the enlargement? So we just simply need to look at two corresponding sides. So let us look at AC, which is 2 units, and A prime, C prime, which is 4 units. So we divide the image length by the object length. So it's 4 divided by 2, which would give me a positive 2. So my answer would be B, which is 2. Alright. Item 60 refers to the diagram below, which shows a ladder 5 meters long leaning against a vertical wall. So the ladder here is 5 meters. The foot of the wall is 3 meters away from the wall. How far up the wall does the ladder reach? Now, right here, you actually have what we call a right angle triangle. Alright? So we want this side. Now, this is 5. Down here is 3. Now, there are certain things that you should know, like Pythagorean triads. Alright, so it's actually a 3, 4, 5 triangle, which means that over here would be 4. If you don't know it, you can also work it out. So you could call over here A. So we know that 3 squared plus A squared would be equal to 5 squared. Alright, I'll work it out like a regular equation. So I'm going to have 9 plus A squared equal to 25. A squared would be 25 minus 9. So A would be equal to 16. A squared is equal to 16. I will square root both sides, so A is equal to 4. Alright? But there are certain Pythagorean triads that we should also try to know. Like we also have the 6, 8, 10 triangle. And the Pythagorean triads are also scalar multiples. So by multiplying a Pythagorean triad by a constant, you can get an next Pythagorean triad.